And here we are again, Hornets. And this time and once again, this is Miss Murray bringing you Ready Workbook Fun. Woohoo! So, just in case you're not ready, you need to go ahead and have out your pen, your pencil, your highlighter. You need to have your workbook open to page 154. And if you don't, as always, pause the video. You won't hurt my feelings. And if I get ahead of you or start going too fast, you may pause me and play catch up, right? So, and here we go. We've already started. We've done part, and you should have already watched your background video from the History Channel on Anne Frank to get us started with what we're getting ready to look at. And if you'll remember yesterday, you watched the video or were in class in the lesson, and we were with Meep and Mr. Frank, Otto Frank, in 1945 when he finally got back to the attic after he escaped or was released from the concentration camps. So we are now going to start our lesson for today. We are on page 154. So, like always, the very first thing we do is we're going to write the title of our lesson at the top of the page and write some notes just to make sure we're reinforcing what we're learning and what we're doing. So, at the top of our page, we are going to write analyzing the structure of drama. Now, when I say analyzing, I mean we are going to break this down. Okay. And when I say structure, first off, before I'm going to come back to structure, I'm going to say drama. When I say drama, I mean anything scripted, meant to be acted out or performed. Okay. And that goes right here with what we've just circled. Okay. Remember, drama still has a plot, still has a setting, still has characters, and that's going to go off the page. Characters. Okay. And also is usually meant to be entertaining. The author's purpose behind a drama is normally to be entertained. Okay. Now, when I say structure, I'm talking about four things for drama. I am talking about the stage directions, because that's going to give us information about our setting and how our characters are supposed to act and behave. I'm talking about the dialogue between the characters. And remember, dialogue can be broken down into dialogue means two or more. So we're talking about conversation between two or more characters that moves the plot forward. Then you also have a monologue, which is when one character is talking to other characters, but it's a very long speech. Mono meaning one. And then we also have a soliloquy, which solo also means one or by yourself. And a soliloquy is when the character is on stage, technically direct, with a long speech directed toward the audience. The other characters aren't meant to hear what's in a soliloquy. It's why it's solo, all alone. It's kind of like with, breaking that fourth wall that we had talked about earlier in the year. So the other things that you need for structure of drama, besides stage directions, and I forgot a comma, dialogue, you also need acts and scenes. Now, these are very important because this is how it's broken down. Normally, when there's a scene change, it's not all, but acts change when the plot really changes. Scenes change to give the actors on stage time to reset the stage or to make changes, right? So now we got to read our instructions, and it says we're going to read the beginning of Act 1, Scene 2. So that's letting us know we're no longer with where we were before. We're changing something because the scene changed. Okay. So we're looking at, and we're also making sure that you realize we're reading the beginning, because it means we're only getting a partial part of this scene. And our instructions even tell us that it is going to introduce the Van Don family. Okay, so scroll up. All right, now when we introduce the Van Dans, well, by the way, we are reading the Diary of Anne Frank. We're in Act 1, Scene 2, and we should be expecting some changes from what we read in the first one. So then we have to number our paragraphs. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So while I read this out to us, and I'm noticing that it's all in italics, it's all different than the rest of how the play's written. So I can automatically just see from my text features that these are stage directions. So I'm going to be getting my setting from these stage directions. I'm also going to probably be getting some information about my characters, probably some physical character traits, which how they portray themselves or how they act. I'm also going to get a good look at who they are, how they're dressed, their age. So that's what these stage directions are setting me up for, is my character traits and characterization on how they're going to be portrayed by actors on the stage. Okay. So as I'm reading, I want you to do what we've always done. I want you to underline setting, anything that you see about the setting that lets you know when and where we are. And then I also want you to make sure that you're circling characters and character traits that are going to jump out at us to help us understand these particular characters. So, The Diary of Anne Frank, Act 1, Scene 2 by Frances Goodrich and Albert Hackett. It's early morning, July 1942. The rooms are bare, as before, but they are now clean and orderly. Mr. Van Don is a tall, portly man in his late 40s, is in the main room, pacing up and down, nervous. His clothes and overcoat are expensive and well cut. Mrs. Van Don sits on the couch, clutching her possessions, a hat box, bags, etc. She is a pretty woman in her early 40s. She wears a fur coat over her clothes. Peter Van Don is standing at the window of a room on the right, looking down at the street below. He's a shy, awkward boy of 16. At his feet is a black case, a carrier for his cat. The yellow Star of David is conspicuous on all of their clothes. All right, so end scene. Now, what did you underline as your setting? What did you find? Good job that it's early morning, July 1942. This is a big deal because this is 3 years before scene 1. So we're going back in time. It's like the whole play is about to be one giant flashback to what happened. Remember, flashback is when you start at one spot and you're going to look back at what happened at the end, and then go all the way until it catches back up to the beginning. Okay. So, what else did you notice about our setting? Good job. The rooms are still bare, but now they're clean and orderly. So if the rooms are still bare, that means that, and bare means BARE, that there's nothing there. It's empty. It's blank. This is letting me in that they're clean and orderly, that all of this stuff is new. Okay. It's what I like to think of, it's not lived in yet. All right. So then we're going to go and look at our next 3 paragraphs, go over our characters. So I'm going to go through and circle my characters real quick. I've got Mr. Van Don, I've got Mrs. Van Don, and I've got Peter Van Don. Okay. Now, I'm also going to go through and circle character traits that jump out at me about each character. I've got, by the way, portly is kind of hefty. It's a little bit thicker. So let's see, a tall, portly man. He's in his late 40s. Okay, another big character trait that I see for him is that he's pacing up and down and nervous. This sets a very negative tone because this means he's worried. We normally pace up and back and forth when we're worried about something and we're trying to figure something out. All right. His clothes and overcoat are expensive, which means they're worth a lot of dollar bills. Yo. So he's got expensive clothes on. Then I've got Mrs. Van Daan. She's sitting on the couch, clutching. Ah, this is a big key word for me. Clutching. That's also a negative word because that means you're holding on to something tightly and she's afraid it's going to be taken from her. Kind of gives me a little bit of what that is. That she's a pretty woman in her early 40s. And she has on a fur coat. I don't know about y'all. Fur coats cost a lot of money. Those are also expensive. This isn't faux fur. She has on a real fur coat. Okay. And then I've got Peter Van Daan, who's at the window at the right. He's looking down at the street. He's not pacing. He's not sitting with his mom, though. He's off to the side by himself, looking down at the street below. This is a little bit, I go a little neutral, a little worrisome for me because I'm not sure if he's looking down because he's sad or if he's afraid or if he's just hit teenage boy and is just kind of meh with the whole situation that he's in. So I'm a little unsure about his feelings. So but based on his mom and dad, I'm assuming he might be a little worried too, which is why he's looking at the street. Okay. He's also a shy and awkward boy of 16, and he's brought his cat. So I'm saying the fact that they're about to be locked up in an attic for an indefinite amount of time, hiding from people who want to do them harm, and he brought his cat. For me, this is saying like how you're worried about feeding him and bathroom times and things like that, and he's brought his cat. This is telling me he's a little bit spoiled. It's important to notice that because he's used to having a certain way of life. And then we have the yellow star of David, and that is also a Jewish symbol. And this is what it looks like, except that it's yellow. And it was on all their clothes, and that is how the Nazis during Nazi occupied Germany and Amsterdam and Poland and all of the area over there, they identified Jews by making them stitch the star to their clothes. And if they were found out not having that star sewn to their clothes and they were Jewish, they would be punishable with some severe consequences, even up to death. So they had to wear that star to identify them as being Jewish. Okay. And then I've also got this nice little thing over here that says continue, letting me know, guys, that we're going to be going on to the next page to finish the dialogue after these stage directions that we just read. Okay. So, some things I just learned about these people before we even get going. When I talk about tone, they're nervous. All right. And maybe and worried. And I've circled my evidence to show that they're nervous and worried. I've got the fact that Mr. Van Daan's pacing up and down. It even says he's nervous. I've also got the fact that Mrs. Van Daan is clutching her possessions, showing she's afraid. And then I've got Peter looking down at the window, possibly because he's worried and about to have to be locked up in this attic with people that he doesn't know that well, right? And by the way, we had our vocabulary with inconspicuous earlier. This time we've got conspicuous, which means inconspicuous means it's hiding. Conspicuous means it's in plain sight. All right. So let's go on down and we're going to look at our chart below. And it says our big question that we're looking at is what do these stage directions tell you about the setting and the characters in the play? So, and then I have my little side note down here that says stage directions, because remember, that's part of our big structure. Introduce new characters and give information about a change to the setting. Okay. And then we even have our little note that scene 2 is set in an earlier time than scene 1. So think about what the stage directions tell you about the setting and characters. And we're going to use the chart below to fill in the missing information. Well, our setting, based on what we read and we underlined, is that it's in July 1942, which happens to be during World War II. Okay. Now, we also know that I'm going to make a note that this was 3 years before scene one. We already know that scene one opened with Mr. Frank trying to maintain composure and control and seeing the dusty, dirty, empty room and the overturned tables. And then he picked the glove up off the floor that made him start crying and lose his composure. So we know that something bad happened in that room. So, but now remember, we're flashing back to 3 years before that happened to how it all started. And we also learned that this time, once again, as we just said, the rooms are still bare, but this time they are clean and orderly. All right. Now, and as we already pointed out, this means that they're likely new and not lived in. I know y'all probably think we're just copying what we just did to the top. We are. But when we annotate the text, and we do that on our own because later on when you read things, you might not have a handy dandy chart right here to help you with stuff, to help you annotate the text. So if we can learn how to underline our settings and circle our characters and character traits on our own, we won't need a chart to help us identify the important information in a drama. So when we're looking at our characters, Mr. Van Dam, I'm going to add something above this. He's a dad. She's the mom, and Peter is the son. They're a family, first and foremost. Okay. So also one of the things that I noticed about all three of them, and I'm just gonna just put a big dollar sign right here because they come from money. They're used to because he's got the what we left out. But he's not just tall, portly, and nervous. He's also wearing an expensive cut of clothes. So he's and that Mrs. Von Don that she is well, he's also in his late 40s. Right? That I've got Mrs. Van Dam is I'm going to put afraid because the way she's clutching her material, her stuff, her things, and she's probably used to having things, and she's about to have to not just afraid for her life and for her well-being and for her family, but she's also about to have her entire way of life taken from her. So she's clutching what little possessions she has left. So she's afraid. She's also wearing that fur coat, which lets me know that once again, that goes with this big dollar sign I've got out here that they come from money and they're used to a certain way of life. She is in her early 40s and she's also described as pretty. Okay. Then our next thing is that we've got Peter, who he's 16. So we have a teenage boy about to be trapped in an attic for an indefinite amount of time. He is shy. That's right, Sky. Shy and awkward. All right. Let's see what else. Oh, he also seems, I'm not sure. I'm gonna just write meh about him because I'm not sure about his feelings just yet from him looking out the window. It could go a whole bunch of different ways. He also brought his cat. Okay. He brought his pet with him. I would probably, we're not gonna lie, Ripley would probably come with me too. I'd have to probably find a way because we all know I love my dog more than most people. So Ripley would probably be coming, wouldn't you, girl? Yeah, she's sitting here watching me film. Okay, now, and he is looking out the window because he realizes he's about to be trapped. So keep in mind that all of them are probably a little bit afraid and that they're about to be in this place above this warehouse in a giant attic. And ultimately, you're going to find out that we'll be there with the dentist and then the 4 Frank. So there will be 9 people living in that space. And they'll have to have a certain schedule when they can go to the bathroom and when they can eat, when they can have the lights on, when they can make sounds, any of those things. Okay. So if we missed anything, so at the bottom it's telling us that it would, because if, typical, if you were in the classroom, we'd be seeing, if you with a partner, and you'd get to discuss any differences in the meanings you identified from the details revealed by the stage directions. So did I miss anything? You can comment in Google Classroom or even on our stream if you found something that I missed or that I might not have talked about and you think is really important for what we're dealing with when it comes to our stage directions here. Okay. All right. Well, until next time, I hope you have a good day. And if once again, if you have any questions, please ask. Bye, y'all.